Twitter, Facebook, YouTube and Instagram, being some examples of the most popular amongst social media, has caused a 21st century uproar with the older and, dare I say, less informed generations. The general notion of this negative perspective on social media suggests that usage has become excessive and has cultivated isolating and dependent behaviour. This can cause further hysteria in some people's attitude towards the new digital age and blindly point fingers, asking the question, is social media tearing apart the fabric of society? During this presentation, I'll be addressing the controversial subject everyone knows the media is bad for society, from a counter-argument perspective, focusing on social media. There are a few key concepts that I will address from a critical point of view, exploring and analysing the correlation and causation of how we as a globalised society have come to form and conclude such theories and views on social media, suggesting a more positive and optimistic outlook on the effects, opportunities and benefits social media has on all generations living in this day and age. I'll particularly focus on the teen to young adult age group, as Stephen Harrington has done throughout the semester. Stephen concludes in the lecture of week 3 that moral panic is almost always about emotion or fear over reason and maintaining existing social order, suggesting the new ways conflict with previous tradition, and at its core it's simply about fear of change. In a Harvard Business Review article by Rosabeth Moss-Kanter titled 10 Reasons Why People Resist Change, I found some of the main points in this article relevant to the concept discussed in week 3 about moral panics. Stephen discusses the history of moral panic and how adults in particular catastrophize the outcome and effects that new media and modern technology has on our younger generation. Kanter discusses change and the people's fear of loss of control, stating that change interferes with autonomy and can make people feel that they've lost control over their territory. It's not just political, as in who has the power. Our sense of self-determination is often the first thing to go when faced with potential change coming from someone else. Apart from the fact that a decade ago, parents could have significant control over their children's social lives by simply setting a curfew, this ties in with parents' fear of change and not knowing or having the power to have control over what their children are exposed to outside the safety of their own home. Social media represents to parents a freedom which is difficult to monitor. There are so many different platforms which they can access social interactions from, and this challenges what the previous generations knew, therefore creating anxiety around what could possibly happen and immediately assuming the worst possible outcomes. In Dana Boyd's book, It's Complicated, she implores a deeper understanding and non-biased view of the connection between teens and social media. She further encourages educating yourself on these issues to avoid hysteria which is presented in the media. This discusses the main concerns around social media with teens, such as addiction, privacy, and the dangers and risks of social media, like the vulnerability to sexual predators and bullying. In the BBC documentary Revolution, neuroscientist Susan Greenfield talks about negative cyber activity being easier in the virtual world because your actions have no tangible consequences. I feel that this is an extremely valid and important point about the risks and dangers of social media, but on the flip side of the argument, I personally had been bullied in school, which was during a time when none of the social media sites existed. I'm pleased to see that bullying awareness has effectively been brought to the limelight with the help of social media, and feel it would have been extremely beneficial for me as a support network throughout my schooling. One last point which I feel is extremely relevant to this day and age in regards to succeeding in a professional career is when Boyd concludes in her chapter on literacy that many high status opportunities from higher education to new forms of employment expect people to be media literate and technologically advanced. She further goes on to say that both adults and youth need to develop media literacy and technological skills to be active participants in our information society, and that learning is a lifelong process. In conclusion, I ask myself, is social media simply a modernised replacement of what former generations used as communication platforms? With the added bonus of having the opportunity to freely express yourself, cultivate dreams, enhance careers, and connect with people you may never have had the chance to meet otherwise. I believe that change is essential to the very progress of human evolution, which can only be improved by trial and error. We now have more opportunity than ever before to monitor what is going on in the world, have a valid input, create communities with like-minded people, let our creativity run wild, and make differences to our lives as well as others. We should avoid focusing the negatives and resisting change, and rather adapt to our surroundings to reap the benefits of these new innovations as we always have throughout history.